I'd like to welcome all of you. I'd like to welcome the current rowers on the men's and women's rowing team. I'd like to welcome the alum. What? Louder. That's it.
Bigger is always better.
I'd like to welcome the alumni and their spouses and their family members. I'd like to welcome the parents of the current rowers, the grandparents, brothers and sisters of the current rowers. My name is Ken Struckmeyer. I coached the rowing team here from 1971 to 1992, and I worked with Ken Abbey when he started with the rowing program. Is this better? Yeah. Fine.
You want to use this big guy?
Hey, turn around.
Yeah.
Just for old time's sake.
So I've been on the faculty here for 38 years, and I've never read a written presentation, but I have some written statements that I wanted to make, and I wanted to make sure I covered all the bases. So Claire, my first heavyweight coxswain, said it's going to be just awful. It'll be like, welcome to today's day. We're really happy to be here, but I'm going to read it because I think it's really important that I say what I want to say on behalf of the current rowers, the former rowers, and the Abbey family, and also the university. The naming and dedication of a university building does not occur very often. At Washington State, it's probably every 3 or 4 years that a building is dedicated in honor of a member of the community. Buildings are usually named for presidents or deans, great scientists or scholars, for people who have donated a great sum of money, or occasionally for people who have contributed to the student experience. Today we're naming a Shellhouse for a person who desired to provide a memorable experience for students at Washington State University. It is even more memorable because few Shellhouses are being built in the United States at the current time, and fewer Shellhouses are being dedicated. Ken Abbey grew up in Spokane and attended the University of Washington, where he rowed for 4 years. He was on the team and rowed with the legendary coach Dick Erickson and with Dr. David Kraft, who is here and was one of the first coaches. I believe Ken Abbey learned values through rowing that were life-changing for him, as it has been for others of us that have rowed. It is also this experience that permitted him to ask Dick Erickson for shells and equipment on several occasions when shell houses blew down or shells were taken underneath bridges. See, I've already digressed from my text. After leaving the University of Washington, Ken worked at the University of Oregon, where he assisted in the development of the rowing program there. He then came to Pullman to work for his mentor, Warren Bishop, in the Office of Business Affairs. He was contacted by Rich Stager, who is here today. Rich is in the back. Rich Stager, who came to Washington State and felt that rowing should be available at Washington State as well as at the University of Washington and elsewhere. So Rich asked Ken to help him develop a new rowing program at Washington State. I understand that Ken was more than a bit reluctant to say yes to start another rowing program at another university. But I think Ken was intrigued by the dedication of the students here, including Rich, Craig Illman, Dave Amy, Jim Brellan, Mike Clear, Mike Kimbrell, and others who worked on the building at Boyer Park, and when that blew down, rebuilt it a second time. He also found assistance in working with the team with coaches Bob Orr, who was a fellow Husky, and again, Dave Pratt, who was by this time was back in Pullman on the faculty of mechanical engineering. I'm pooping out. Ken's contributions were twofold. First, he had a desire to see a program grow, flourish, and be long-lasting, while reflecting the values of his alma mater. And second, Ken's contribution came from the position he occupied, which allowed him to assist in administrative ways. It was from this position that he could assist in the contracts, funding, loans, and to help other universities to see the benefits of the rowing program. And he usually did that by saying, oh, you want me to do this? Well, then you're going to have to do that. So it was a little give and take, and it was nice to have the Vice President of Business Affairs in that position. With the progress and success of the rowing program in the first 15 years, he planned and assisted in the development of this site and of this shell house. The first Shellhouse burned down in 1984, and so he again built his fourth Shellhouse here on this site in 1985 when we moved back into it. He had to work with the Corps of Engineers, and I know Doug Engel is having a lot of fun with the Corps of Engineers because, as you will comment today, this in fact was intended to be in the ground, but we just found out that the Corps of Engineers has a permitting process. An archaeologist has to come and look at the sites and make sure that it's not of archaeological significance. And it'll be another $800 or $900 in a year's process to get the Corps' permit to put the plaque where we had intended to put it. Then after we got the building built, then Ken had to work with the power company to get the power lines and the electricity down to here because the power is above the road. So we had to work with the VISTA, the Highway Department, the Railroad, the Corps of Engineers, and that took another 2 years to get power into the building. As you'll see, he could wear and juggle many hats at many times. His view of the program was that it should strive to be the best, that the program proceed as if it were a varsity sport, that the students do their best on the water and in the classroom, that the students learn how to advise and assist in the management of a university program, and that above all, and I stress again above all, that it be done with class. It was also during the beginning of the rowing program that he helped establish the development of the women's rowing program. He was one of the administrators at the university who kept insisting to all of us that there was one crew at Washington State University, and that crew had men's and women's teams as part of the program. It was his insistence that fundraising projects first benefit the men 1 year and then the women the second year in equal parts. I would have to say this view at times did create some problems, but that's the way it was if you knew Ken Abbey with his various hats on. His particular fundraising event were the casinos that were held at Shermer's Restaurant, which is now the Thai restaurant. He would sit in the bar, smoking his cigarettes, drinking his beer, while serving as the pit boss. At 2 o'clock, he would then act as the accountant and clear the books and add up the money. 1 year, the proceeds went to the men to buy a shell. The next year, all the proceeds would go to the women to buy a shell, and that's the way it was. In the end, he was the crew representative who negotiated the move of the women's program to the athletic department, along with then Vice President University Relations Stan Schmidt, and then Athletic Director Jim Livengood. Ken's wife Joanne, his daughter Shannon, and Aaron, and his son Nelson. Aaron is in Hawaii Pullman. Nelson is in Dublin, Ireland, so it was kind of Dublin, Ireland, Pullman, Washington. So Shannon and Joanne are here. They witnessed this desire of Ken's that the program grow and prosper. They dealt with a garage full of broken seats, oars, boat parts, and his evenings in the garage trying to glue these items back together, or on occasion coming down to the river with me at night to glue the shells back together or to apply more duct tape. They, like me, were amused that he kept his dad's old fishing boat in the garage, expecting to make it a coaching launch. Fortunately, the wooden planks were too far apart to be drawn back together to make it float again. I feared it was too small anyway and too narrow, and only he would have been the one that could have fit in the boat. At tonight's banquet at the Cub, which begins at 6 o'clock, Dr. David Pratt, Dave Amy, I think he's here and the first rowers, Dr. Tammy Crawford, Commodore and coach of the women's team, Dr. Bob Appleyard will offer further remembrances and tributes as we continue to celebrate today's naming. What better testament to his vision and goals about the rowing program at Washington State University that today we dedicate the Washington State Shellhouse in his honor and in his remembrance. Now Shannon Abbey, and I forgot to ask your married name, so Shannon Abbey Blank.
I kept my name.
Oh, okay. Shannon Abbey will offer comments on behalf of the Abbey family. Along with her mother and sister, they will unveil the plaque here that will be on display here at the Abbey, the new Ken Abbey Shellhouse.
This is Jacob Kenneth McDonald. Ken's only grandson. So died in Wyoming. He had an oar from the shell named Ken Abbey shell up on his wall in his living room. And when he died, my brother helped me tie it onto the back of his pickup truck and take it all the way down to California with that thing strapped on top of my what became my truck. And I have it now hanging in my painting studio, that oar. And you know, as a kid, of course, I had no sense, well, besides the fact that my dad was not one to tell you exactly, he was a man of few words, let's say. And I learned more about what he did for the crew reading this WSU Today article than I knew, except that I did know that it was very, very important to him. And we spent a lot of time coming down here until I turned about 17 and refused. But, and that boat that Ken, by the way, you know, when I was talking to my sister and brother if there was anything they wanted me to say, and my brother said he thought the most important thing would be about the community. He was very committed to building community in this town, in Pullman, and with coaching baseball, and then also with the crew. I think that was very important. But that little boat that from when I was 8 years old was the last time it floated, and that was with us bailing the whole time out at Priest Lake, and siphoning. I can remember siphoning it and getting a mouthful of gross water. Anyway, until he died, my brother did finally have that little boat restored, and it's a little wooden 1949 boat. It's a beautiful little boat. Anyway, so the thing about community, that is something that I got from both my parents. Both of them volunteered a lot in the community, and I think as I was thinking about what I wanted to say, I was just thinking that the lesson for me with this is that he took something that was very important to him and took it out and did a service with it. Not trying to do some big exalted thing, but taking something that he loved and bringing it to other people and using the strengths that he had, to negotiate all this stuff is the thing that I can learn from here. And I also want to say, when I was thinking about it, I was thinking, oh, come on, the Ken Abbey show. I mean, what was Dad, what was the big deal? And then, like I said, reading that WSU Today article, I saw what a big thing it was. And I also want to say about Ken Struckmeyer, my first thought, and it's what Nelson agreed with me, was that that's Ken's generosity to name it after Dad. Because Ken Struckmeyer was huge, as you guys all know, is huge in this whole thing. Still is.
In a good way.
So it was Ken and Dad, and we used to laugh about how Ken would pick up the phone and say hello, and he'd say, "Is he there?" That's how Ken answers. Anyway, so I think that's all I want to say. Except thank you very much. This is very moving to us, and when I talk to my friends in California about this, people just kept saying, 16 years after the man died, and that you guys are honoring him is tremendous to us. It's very, very moving, and of course, he's very important to me and my brother and sister. But it's a great thing. Thank you.
Well, I think that's the end of the festivities for today. Like I said, the plaque and more comments will be made tonight in Pullman at the Cup. I think the women are going out for a row. The old people on the men's side are going out for a fun row for about 40 minutes with me, and then there will be a competitive race between the winners of the Class Day undergraduates and the old people. I mean the emeritus old people and embrace and follow that. So thank you again all for coming, and thank you to Joanne and Shannon for being here, and we'll have a great Cougar Saturday. David has asked me to read this aloud, so it's the Ken Abbey Shellhouse, a man of many hats. Ken Abbey, 1933 to 1994, served as Washington State University's Assistant Vice President for Business and Finance for 22 years, and was pivotal to the founding and development of the rowing programs at Washington State University. Where am I? Meeting with coaches and officers, Ken might suddenly interrupt himself to say, "I'm going to put on my administrative hat." Now. Coach, advisor, umpire, fundraiser, and administrator were all hats that Ken wore during 2 decades of service to WSU rowing. His accomplishments were equaled only by his modesty and humor. We remember him with affection and gratitude, presented by the Cougar Crew Alumni Association, March 20th, 2010. Christine Gregoire, Governor, she didn't come. Yeah, Elson Floyd, President, is out of town, but I think on behalf of the board, Cougar Crew Alumni Association Board, I think President Floyd would like to have been here, and I think this is an important dedication for him. And then the list of boards of regents. And we're going to have it inside the house, and then we'll get a fine when we figure out how we're going to do it.